Welcome, everybody. I am Judy McKenzie. I am here today with Barb Dorrington. And Barb Dorrington, hi, Barb. Barb and I, look it. Oh, good stuff.
I know. Do you love it?
I love it. Do you love it?
I totally love it.
They're gorgeous. I've had those stones for a long time. I made, that is labradorite. And Barb bought that bracelet from me, and it just arrived, yesterday or when?
2 days ago.
Beautiful.
I've been wearing it.
Lovely. Okay. Well, Barb Dorrington and I go back a long way. We were very young social workers in a phenomenal children's mental health facility called Madame Vanier Children's Services. And we worked with families and we worked with children, and we were art therapists as well at a time when that was not a particularly well-known modality. So I'd like to think you and I are kind of groundbreakers, Barb.
Pioneers.
Anyway, now Barb is, she is in private practice, and I've got a little bit of information here. So excuse me while I read this because I don't want to mess it up. So Barb, her private practice focuses on self-regulation and calming strategies to live a fuller life. Don't we all need that? And also, Barb works with people who have had a trauma history. And most of the folks that we are involved with, and quite honestly, when you start to get to the age we're at, everybody's had a trauma of some sort. And trauma doesn't necessarily have to mean death or dismemberment. It can mean many, many things.
Any adverse experience.
Absolutely. So Barb today is going to talk about a tool that she uses, actually discovered she used inadvertently, but got to spend some time with Dan Siegal, who is a Harvard-trained MD and has then gone on to create some amazing tools. And what I'm going to do is, on the wall, I'm going to put up the visual that we'll be using tonight. And I'm also going to put Dan's website, because he's got a ton of great information and free information that I think that our viewers are really going to enjoy.
Absolutely.
So we'll be talking about Dan Siegal a good deal, but then we're going to move into Tara Brach's acronym that actually makes this whole methodology come alive for me.
Yes.
Yeah.
Me too, for sure.
Yeah. So if you would, Barb, would you talk a little bit about when we were planning our session, you described how you came to, and this is Ratty the therapy cat. His real name is Wiley, but he likes to do parkour around my apartment, and so I just call him Ratty. He just bounces all over the place, but he is a therapy cat. He likes to sit and meet with everybody. Away from the cat, can you describe the system that you used to that actually, when you first started hearing about Dan's stuff, you thought, deja vu, I know this already. But he's now made it famous. You made it effective, he's made it famous. So can you describe that a wee bit? And then we will talk a little bit about the actual visual that I'm hoping people have in front of them, that give a brief overview of that, and then we'll leap into Tara's work.
Okay, and I forget exactly what I said to you the other day, but what came to mind today is that back in the 1970s and 80s, and I'm sorry if I'm dating us.
No. That's what makes us so amazing. We have a lot of experience. We've made a lot of mistakes and learned from them, and you can't learn stuff other than by sometimes falling flat.
Well, and you and I were able to meet Irene Dudney, who spent a little bit of time at Vanier, and she's like the queen of art therapy.
Right.
And you and I both both really for our clients, but also for us.
Yes.
And so
we had to do it. We had to do it to become a certified art therapist. We had to go through therapy, which is great.
And when I went through that experience with Irene Dudney, at that time, I realized what the missing piece was. At first, I was offended. What do you mean I need to be more insightful myself? This is in the early 80s. Right. And I thought, I'm pretty insightful. But the truth is, our insights change every minute, every hour, every day. And if we don't instill a practice like this in our lives every single day to get a focusing on our internal systems, then we fail ourselves every day. And I have found that a lot of things have happened to me lately. I have a sick husband and a father whose partner just passed away. And I'm finding that I'm navigating all these very upset and sad people. And I have to find my level of calm. And this practice keeps me balanced. It keeps me focused, and I can get through my day. I'm not saying it's perfect or I'm perfect.
Sure. And life isn't perfect, right?
No.
Not supposed to be.
No. And I'd be very glad to walk through a really quick version of what I start my morning with.
That's perfect. That's exactly what we were talking about. And I thought about it after our conversation, and I thought that is such a strong beginning to ground yourself.
Right.
Your day, so that you have a much easier opportunity if something goes amiss during the day. You've already started out grounded.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so this is Dan Siegal's Wheel of Awareness. And one of the things I do is I try not to focus on another person's face and eyes. And so I'm going to lower my eyes as I talk on purpose.
Okay.
So I can get focused. It's
right.
part of what I do. And I thought, well, I'll just do a short version.
Absolutely. Perfect.
Okay. So I start with Dan Siegal's external spot on the wheel. If we imagine a wheel, just imagine a wheel, and there is a hub at the center of it, and there will be 4 quadrants around it. The very first part of what we do is we imagine at the very center is the hub, and that is our calm and our patience and our kindness. And we're going to then imagine a spoke coming from that calm place into the first quadrant. And the first quadrant will be the 5 senses, the things that we see, we hear, we smell, we touch, and we taste. So one by one, I start my morning and I take time to focus on what I have just been seeing. And then I concentrate on what I can hear, not only in the room, but in the distance, outside, nature, sounds from another room. I take a minute there. Then I pay attention to what I smell. Do I smell anything? Hopefully it's a good odor, not a
I was thinking that as you were saying that, it was like,
And then I think, am I tasting something? Like usually I've already brushed my teeth, so it might just be that. And then anything I'm touching, if I'm doing it on my bed, it might be my bedspread, it might be my feet on the floor. And then I'm kind of grounded. I've positioned myself so that my breathing has calmed down, and I am paying attention to the rhythm of my breathing. The next thing I do is I take a few minutes to move my focus to the body part of myself. And so this is one of the inner sensations. It's something that you might not necessarily know about me looking at me on a screen, but I go to the body sensations I just feel in my entire body, but also, am I losing you? Am I okay?
I just we're fine. We had a moment where we froze, but it was saying that my internet is unstable. Who needs that? Carry on.
That happens, right?
That does happen.
So I'm focusing on my entire body, on my sensations, my muscles, the bones, my head, my limbs, my torso, and even trying to imagine what my organs would feel like. And I only take a minute or two to do that. Then I focus on my mind itself. And I think about, what are my emotions right now? My thoughts, my memories, my beliefs, my dreams, the things I long for, my attitudes, and I try to produce an intention in there. I'm going to have a good, calm day today.
Mm-hmm.
And then I become aware of my mind, and I pay attention to imagining for a minute, going back into the hub of the wheel, in the calm place now, because I feel calmer.
Right.
And then try to, this sounds a little bit weird, but I try to.
Hey, I'm from Vancouver, nothing to sound weird.
Okay, good. So I try to pay attention to my attention.
Right.
So I'm actually in my calm place and noticing what thoughts are coming by, and I'm just owning them, but I'm letting them float by like a cloud, like a wave in the ocean goes away. So I don't attach meanings or beliefs or judgments to them.
Mm-hmm.
And then finally, I go to the fourth quadrant, which is, see, this is so right on now with your cat.
I know.
And I pay attention to the people around me that are in my world. And Judy, this is also the people in my world that maybe I'm having some difficulty with, but I'm sending kind attention and love to them anyway. Right. Because one of the things I have realized is holding on to anger is so toxic. You've talked about that before.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't take away that I might feel frustration or anger or sadness towards them, but I can also feel love towards them because they are in my world in one way or another.
Right.
And so I embrace them, and also my good relationships. And I imagine my relationships to the world, like to nature, to walking. And because there is this inner sense, like you and I, if we think about our relationship, it has spanned decades.
I know.
And here we are, and we talked like it was yesterday. And I think there probably had to be 15 years in one span of separation.
Yeah.
And the next time we talked, it was like it was yesterday.
Yeah.
And it's that felt sense of relationship that I could talk to you tomorrow like this, or a decade from now like this.
Right.
And so then I kind of breathe, let it go. And so I've paid attention to my body, to my feelings, to my thoughts, to my relationship to others, on top of everything I see and feel and hear, or see and taste and touch.
Right.
And so that's his wheel of awareness. But he has on his website, since you've looked at it, different variations. And one is like 8 minutes and one is like 22 minutes.
Right.
So if you want to go deeply.
I looked at a 49-minute one. Whoa. That was deep. That was deep.
Wow. Did you do the whole thing?
I did. I could barely knit after I was so real. It was just, I just wanted to get a sense of, because I know Dan's work very kind of on the surface, but I was very interested in the conference that you went to, and just some of the information that you were sharing with me as you were there. And being a curious soul, I went in his website, and he's also got a second website. And what is that called? That is, I have a note here. It's got something. There's a link on his site, but there's just such great information.
Oh, terrific! And you could spend days looking at his material.
And the spirit of sharing is so amazing that I just and so that was why I really wanted to spend some time with you today. Now, Barb, how long do you think on average, because I know every day is different,
right?
But on average, how much time would you say that you spend during the early part of your day doing this kind of 360 view?
Well, I'm partly retired, so my clients are later in the afternoon, and I try to make sure that I have a routine and a system that includes this.
Yeah. And
sometimes it includes journaling, putting on Baroque music, and just writing. So, I'll add different practices to this, but I could do this if I have a very busy day in 15 minutes.
Right. Okay.
And if I don't have a busy day, I might spend an hour just reflecting, because like you, I do a lot of writing.
Right. Yeah, you've always been a writer. It doesn't come quite as naturally to me, although I do find if I have any stress that I'm under, And sometimes I'm not even aware of it. And as I was describing to you recently that I was really, oh, the internet connection is unstable. Did you see that sign come up? Is that going to be in our video?
It might be, but
oh, it's okay.
Yeah,
it is.
It's life.
It's life.
Let it pass.
It's okay. But I was really struggling a while ago, like within the last month. I was struggling with meditation, and I like everybody else. I'm always having to. I've really had to up my game around self-compassion because sometimes my monkeys are just all over the friggin' place.
Yes.
I was really struggling, and I was also struggling with being gentle with myself. And I thought, what is going on? I'm taking a couple steps backwards. So instead of being critical of myself, it's telling me something is going on. So I started journaling, just writing, and without reading it, without judging it. And out came some thoughts that tied me back to coming up to the anniversary of the first anniversary. So it was a big one of my brother's passing. Right. And I was so focused on thinking about my sister-in-law and my nephew that I clearly wasn't spending enough time thinking about the impact on me. And it was through that journaling and then meditation came back to normal, just kind of balance. But it was in the struggle of trying to focus my thoughts that and because I do this for a living, I spend all kinds of time reading, talking, listening to things. It happens to everybody. So it is, there's the trick is the self-compassion part.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I was noticing something called proprioceptive writing, proprioceptive writing, which is writing with intent and focusing and movement.
Right.
And it's basically where you put on music, light a candle if you have one, right, and allow yourself to only write for 15 minutes because then your mind wanders too much.
Right.
And when you stop, the point of this, and you can look it up on the internet, this process is you say, what I mean by that is, and it seems to help get out the cobwebs to figure out what you want to keep writing.
Oh.
And I found even that alone was really helpful in my writing when I started to write, what I mean by that is,
right,
and then it would focus me again.
Right.
But like you, I've had sometimes weeks where it didn't seem to work. Yeah. And I persisted and it worked again.
Yeah. Just because they're blocks. You have to just kind of work through it. There's no doubt about it. Now, I'm aware of the time, and there's just so much. And I think you and I are going to chat a few times because there's some other information that you were sharing with me that really intrigues me about traumatic childhood experiences and the impact they have on adulthood. But before we sign off today, Barb, can we talk about Tara Brach's acronym? Because I try to share as many tools with my group as I can. Well, it's our group because you're involved in the group. And I think this is a particularly powerful one that we can use when there's something that crops up in the day and you don't have to have, you don't have to sit in yoga position for 55 minutes and and be one with everything. It is something that you can do on the move. So
yes, I use it about 3 times a day on average when something comes up because it slows me down. And so Tara Brach's RAIN, so RAIN. So the R is recognize the situation basically for what it is. I'm going to shorten it up, and people can read about it right on the internet.
Yeah, I'll put a link to a good article on that.
Yes, and so what she's saying is pay attention to the situation, but recognize it for what it is.
Right.
And notice what it is, and try to do that with non-judgment at that point. Like, what is it that I'm looking at right now? Why is that person potentially reacting? I need to recognize it for what it is, because it's not all about, if somebody says something negative to you, it doesn't mean that you have that characteristic. It just means that that person is struggling.
Right. Right.
So the A is to accept and allow the feelings to enter oneself faced with that situation. So somebody's upset. It is fine, and it's necessary, actually, for you to allow those feelings and me to allow those feelings internally and say, yes, I do feel frustrated. Yes, I feel embarrassed. I feel sad.
Right.
And let them enter and say, well, it's kind of weird, but you can say, welcome. Come on in. You're coming in anyway, so you might as well.
Anyway, yeah. Yeah, but don't think you're staying.
Right. Exactly. Like a cloud, it rolls by, right?
Right.
And so they won't stay, but by welcoming them in, they then can be free to leave, right?
Right.
And so the I is to investigate with kindness, really, with personal kindness. So your investigation is, what are the feelings in my body? So you go back to Dan Siegal's thing. How is my body feeling? What are my, how am I relating to this person? So when you investigate with kindness, you're trying to figure out why this particular situation is upsetting you so much, or worrying you so much, or bringing out your anxiety. And then the last one is, well, she used to call it non-identifying with the situation. But the newer model I've seen from her is nourished with self-compassion, which is a big one. And basically, don't believe that this represents who you are.
Right.
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 And so you now have to figure out how to nourish your way back to, okay, I've received the feelings. I've investigated why it might be bothering me. And now I need to change position, get out of the room, move to a different room. Change up my activity, whatever it is. So you're nourishing with self-compassion. So what do I need in that moment to be kind to myself? And isn't it the hardest thing to be kind to yourself?
It is. It totally is. That, one of the things that I talked on the last Monday's video, the Facebook Live, is, I was using this is your zoo and these are your monkeys.
Yes.
And that, these little monkeys are bouncing all over the place. And we would never tolerate anyone treating us the way we often treat ourselves.
That's right.
And we think because we are, it's us doing it, that it is okay. Well, it's not okay.
No.
Not okay, because those thoughts will become things over time. There's no doubt about it. The science is undisputable.
Yes.
So anyway, that I wasn't aware of the RAIN acronym before. You introduced me to it, and I really like those kinds of tools to remind yourself, because it is you can pull it out of your toolkit like bang. And
yes. Oh, like bang. And one of the other ones, I don't know how we are for time, but one of the other ones that Dan Siegal does that really stuck with me is when you're trying to be kind of a sensory detective what's going on with somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
Is he does this thing where he says, remember eye contact, facial expression, tone of voice, posture, gestures, and timing of the situation, and then the intensity of the situation and the body reaction. And so he actually physically, you can find a YouTube video of him doing this, but I noticed that I started paying attention to way more to posture,
right,
to gait, because these were signs that I wasn't clearly recognizing when somebody else was getting frustrated. And now I've become a much better sensory sleuth.
Right. And that and awareness is where it all starts. So when you don't think about it, I was noticing the other day that I was doing a coaching session, and it was a fairly intense one, and I was huddled forward.
Yeah.
And I thought, you're feeling some tension in your body. And as a coach, you've got to be very aware. And as a therapist, you've got to be very aware of what's going on in your body. And I said to the person I was coaching, I said, I was just noticing that I was feeling a little bit of tension. How are you feeling? And because we often will do them just auditory on the phone. And she remarked that, yes, she was feeling some tension. We then started to explore that. It was a very interesting dialogue.
Yeah, it's very eye-opening and enlightening.
I know. And as you said one other time when we were chatting, is that who knew when we were young therapists, when we had families, we did all kinds of really cool stuff, that the organization that we worked for was really leading edge. And I have a great deal of pride in the work that we did over the years, and I'm sure they're still doing it. But
that crops there.
Yes, I know. It was a great crew of people. But who knew? You and I had people draw things, and that took them to a whole other place. But who knew that we could actually sit and have people just kind of manage their breath for a little while to get their body to settle down? We used other techniques, but it is
petting your cat.
Petting my cat. As long as his hairs don't go up my nose and make me sneeze. That adds a whole new dimension.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's okay.
Sorry, there, I got rid of it. There, sorry.
All right. Well, I'm aware of our time. And I want to thank you, Barb. A couple things. I had some technical issues before, so thank you for being patient as I'm learning this new technology. It's fantastic. I'm really enjoying the opportunity of connecting with folks like you and sharing your thoughts.
I hope you'll invite me back.
I will, because during our conversations about what to share with our group, there's so many other things that I think are really of great interest to the group. So I thank you for this, and I'm certainly hoping that you and I will, not hoping, we will connect.
Okay.
Several times, because there's a number of things that I would like to chat with you further.
I'd love to investigate those adverse experiences from childhood and how they affect adulthood.
Yeah, I think that is fantastic. And I looked at some of the questions that were on that questionnaire. I was like, wow, powerful stuff.
Powerful, really powerful.
I know.
Thank you.
Well, Barb, we're heading off into a weekend, and so enjoy yourself. I'm not sure. I think our big great day was yesterday. That it was warm. It was warm.
Oh yes, and today it isn't very nice.
No, it isn't. No, it isn't. So it's best just to be making videos with your professional friends.
Thank you, Judy.
Anyway, have a wonderful time, and we'll touch base soon.
Take care, and thanks for inviting me.
My total pleasure. Bye, Barb.
Bye.